Hello, everyone that's joining this session. Welcome to this Fireside chat. My name is Hidde Zijlstra. I'm a business developer at Nedap, and today I'll be your host. And in this Fireside chat, we'll dive into Samsøe Samsøe's RFID journey, highlighting practical steps and key learnings about using RFID both in store and in the supply chain. And our hope is that after this session, you walk away inspired with real-world examples on how to use RFID and implement it yourself. But to better understand the brand, I've invited two people to join me, Tommy Nimand and Simeon Solarsky. Tommy is the CFO of Samsøe Samsøe, and he brings the strategic and financial lens into this discussion. And Simeon is the head of information technology, and he will share technical considerations and deployment challenges. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Welcome to our audience.
Now, we will have a very nice discussion with each other. The cool thing is people can ask questions in the same time as well. So I really encourage people watching to ask as many questions as you can, because we'll discuss a few of them at the end of this show using a Q&A, or if it's possible, we'll use them in the meantime. But we even have a team that's there to answer your questions if we do not get to them during this show. So fire away any questions you have, and then we'll get started. So enough talking for me. I think it's now up to you to talk more about Samsøe Samsøe. So how would you describe the brand and target market in a nutshell so that people better understand it?
Oh, it's a difficult one in the fashion industry, I would say, Hidde. But you know what? I think from the start we are, a Scandinavian brand. Positioned in this, we call it the premium segment. We are both female and male, so I think that's important to add on. Where a lot of brands, fashion brands at least, are either female or male. We are both. So yeah, Danish brand, fashion brand with roots in the Scandinavian culture, I would say, because we are from Denmark, and it's important to remember that we are Danish fashion brands. So the Scandinavian culture is important for that.
Cool, really cool. And then just a remark for myself. So we have both the CFO and the head of IT. That's a cool combination. Usually you talk to the head of IT when it comes down to RFID. Tommy, how does it come that the CFO himself is talking about RFID in this case?
I think it's maybe it's both because we were a small company when I started almost 20 years ago. And as a part of the CFO, and more or less I could say IT was only a phone back then, or a small computer, but it landed on my desk, and I always loved IT. And in the end, I loved the idea of optimization in list, and optimization goes really well together with finance, especially a head of finance, because in my case, optimization is equal save money normally, So it makes really easy for me to do this calculation and return of investment myself, and a lot of the projects I've been involved in the last 20 years. So I can see where it will bring us as a company and add the value to the company as well. So I don't need to go to as a head of IT, I don't need to go to the CFO to get approved, because I know from time I can approve myself, because it's the same person.
Yeah. And for my sake, I've been with the company for close to 4 years. Being able to work with my CFO directly and understanding our core business, and also partly from the IT side, is very easy, to basically do some change right on the go. So that's been a successful mission. We've been on this digital journey for the last 4 years.
Really cool, really cool. And then you mentioned for 20 years, Tommy. How long have you been working with RFID specifically of those 20 years? Because that's a pretty long time.
Yeah, I think maybe I would say 10. I would say I started investigating into it 12 years ago, where it was new to the market, but it was really, really expensive back then. So it was, let's say, quickly dropped. It was actually, I think we have another brand besides Samsøe, where we're supposed to do a full integration back then, early stage, and everything with RFID. But the first calculation was that was too early. Let's say the technology was too early in the market back then. That's probably 15 years ago. But I would say I've been following the technology up the last 15 years. until it was, let's say, matured enough so you could actually do a really good return of investment of it. And for me and Nedap, the journey started in 16, I think. So in that case, that's 8-9 years now. So
yeah. And for me, I've been in supply chain and IT for over 14 and a half years. RFID since 2013 at the very early stages. Back when it was like almost €1 per label.
Yeah.
Business cases behind that was very hard to push around, especially in the retail world. To now where they're extremely affordable. We're looking into even like new technology and embedding into clothing and all that. So we've come a long way, both technology-wise and also partnership-wise, integration-wise.
So would you say that business case or the ease of proving a business case had drastically changed throughout the years? Has it really had an impact on you?
Yeah, I would say a lot of technologies, they go fast to the market. You can see there's effect, but it takes some time before it matures, and then when technology is matured, everything just gets cheaper. That's how it is. And I would say the same with the RFID for sure.
Yeah, I can add to that, like coming along, so many years into the RFID, back in the day, RFID was primarily used for traceability, visibility, and stock on demand, right on shelf life. Now we're looking into more exotic fields, like with traceability in store, theft detection with camera integrations and all these things, so RFID has come a long journey. So now we're into more in the exciting part of RFID, digital passport being one of those as well.
So that's a lot of things that you're doing. Like what made you start initially? Because you tried it, the technology in itself was probably something that was pushing it a little bit as well. But was there a real problem or a real challenge that first triggered you enough to look into this?
Yeah, originally it was driven by this fancy thing that was popping up there in the mid-10s called Omni e-com, which were back when I started, there was not such a thing as a web page, more or less. So, but one of the things was Omni functionality, meaning that we had a lot of stores, we had a lot of stock. So how do I enable the stock online? Because problems, at least in fashion, is you run out of stock, and then you have a lot of stock in your stores that you would like to sell. So my first main driver here was that how do I get the stock online? And then, if you ask an IT architect, he will say, yeah, you just connect the two systems, and that's perfectly fine. You can do that. But I think mostly, I hope in this webinar would know that a stock in a retail store is not always accurate. So I would say the main driver for me was to have accurate stock all the time, which has been the key driver for my to do this back in 2016, more or less.
Yeah.
So to be able to enable to sell my, let's say, the stock in store online, know exactly what I had at any given time in the store.
Yeah, and I think one of the other key drivers as well is bringing back the time to our employees, where they're able to spend more time with customers, more time with on stock supplying, essentially like bringing days of stock take versus minutes. We're talking on average as between 20-25 minutes to do a stock take in our shops. So all that time we've saved back, essentially we've put back to being able to tailor our customer experience.
Yeah.
So you've been playing around with RFID in the store for 8-9 years now. That's a long time to try out a lot of things. Have you done everything now, or are there still things that you want to do, haven't gotten to? Business case is not there yet.
I would say, to start with, the ambitious list was really, really long, and I get a lot of ideas really, really quick. But I also realized really, really quick that it was not that easy just to do all the things that was on my list, because everything costs money. Also with RFID, especially when you need to enable a lot of other things, automate the process. So we started with the simple part of just stock taking, with a simple ROI, which was an interesting ROI back then, as Simeon mentioned, just changing, the stock takes from 4 times to 52 times, which sounds that it would cost more money. Actually, enable the whole process of setting up the hardware and changing everything, labeling all the goods to a ROI about 8 or 10 months with that project back then in 16, which was like a huge eye opener for me as a CFO as well, saying, okay, and that was only that one KPI. You couldn't, all the other things that you get beside that is like more time spent on the sales floor and all of that you haven't even taken into consideration. But of course that enables, what else can we do with RFID? And for me, theft is one of the biggest things in fashion. This is something I would like to get rid of, but it's not easy. And I've seen some good possibilities with RFID as well. So they were early on my list. So how do I connect, let's say, RFID checkouts, full flow to camera technology, recognitions? I think I've talked a lot about it over the last many years. I haven't seen the full setup yet, and we have just been investigated it on the side. But I think it's getting there where it starts, enable things together with partners, third parties, and AI, and all these things. You can start doing this, let's say, out of the box instead of it's going to be $1 million project, which I look forward to soon. So for sure, that's a part of it. And then, all the other things you do at Nedap within ID Cloud, I think we have been tapped into, all the things that comes with counting is also the inbound and the outbound, the movements and all these things in retail. So the primary part has been focused on retail, but, we did start playing around with all the other things at the warehouse already back in 18, I think, something around there.
Yeah. But Hidde, back to your question regarding like what are we currently like playing in our stores with? I think the latest project that we are running is essentially like Tommy and I, we have a vision for our stores to be smart and more connected. We have a lot of vendors, and I think one of the challenges is that these vendors don't necessarily talk to each other in terms of like business-wise, in terms of like API integrations-wise. So in our case, what we actually managed to achieve is with our POS provider and you guys from Nedap, we were able to integrate an RFID plate into a few of our shops as a POC, essentially connecting POS and RFID connected together. Obviously, that brings the minimalistic look in our stores. We don't have to have physical scanners on the desk, bring the ugliness down. And also for ease of employees to be able to just place the clothes on top, being able to, check out all the items, miss scannings. And on top of that, what we are looking at the moment is obviously integrating with our camera solution as well as we speak. So combining all these trifectas, to be able to have smarter, more connected, more secure stores. In addition to that, also in terms of theft detection and deterrent is obviously with our ID Cloud solutions at our gates or our ID tops, connect those to cameras as well. So there's a lot of things that we're in our roadmap, and we're coming to a solution where, we have all these systems integrated together. So I think in terms of the retail world, we've kind of utilized quite a lot of the products from your end and obviously with our partners. There's always something new, there always will be. And I think Tommy and I were in that safe space where we're able to look into those things and play with those technologies. So
it's really impressive to hear how much you've been doing and are still trying to innovate, and specifically that link that is not only about efficiency but also about employees having extra time for other tasks or customer awareness or the feeling of the brand. It's an interesting puzzle of the different use cases that are not always financially measurable but still have a big impact.
For sure.
Exactly.
That does make me wonder. So you've been doing things then in store for a very long time, and you are still trying to innovate. At some point, you started looking into your supply chain.
Yes.
How did that start? So you had Omni. Omni was triggering, we want to do stuff in store. What was that trigger point to start in the supply chain and say, okay, let's go?
I think, one of the first things I saw was like, okay, so how do I optimize the flow in the store? And that's like, okay, things need to be scanned already when they arrive in the store. It's like, and then we talked about also with people from Nedap. Okay, then you need to have a tunnel, Tommy. It's like, okay, then we need a tunnel. Let's go. And how do I do that? And who can I talk to? Who can I work with? Nedap at that point did not provide any of this. They only had an integration to ID Cloud, and then I was like, okay. And I found some Danish vendors to work with who did this for, I think, washing and everything back in the days, and say we built a tunnel for test, a POC, We did some really good use cases. I built the integration myself together with someone in my team. It was really interesting to learn that part as well. But again, it was a POC. The speed of the conveyor belt on the tunnel did more or less slow down the processes. That was one of the learnings. Integration was made by ourselves. That was difficult when the person building it was sick and all that. But we saw a lot of possibilities within that area, and being that we could optimize the inbound, the outbound, gray market, and all of these things that is in the supply chain, we saw that, okay, we need to do this. We did scale the POC to full scale, conveyor belt and everything. But for, let's say, a brand in our size or a company in our size, the investment just went through the roof when you need to, have conveyor belts and tunnels everywhere to support the whole flow. And that was at that time was not the right time, I would say. And that was in 18 and 19s around there. So at some point that just went to a side, and then some virus came there in the 20s, and then more or less everything came to a stop, I would say. So like a lot of our supply chain initiatives stopped there in the 19s. It didn't stop the innovation, luckily. So there are a lot of things happening in the market in the meantime. So when we were ready, I think in 21 we changed our ERP system. We upgraded that one, and when you change the integrations, you lose integration, I would say. That's a good learning to put behind you here. So instead of redoing, let's say, an integration I made myself with a person who was not longer in the company, bad documentation, all the things that people know is you should not do. We had. I knew that Nedap was looking into optimizing or adding, let's say, supply chain as a bench or a part of your things. I've heard about the Harmony, and I was like, when is it there? When can I use it? Also as I think one of the first cases was Harmony was the POS reader. I was like, because I had an old one, I had made my own integration with that didn't work with the new vendor. So a lot of these small things was really nice to see that Nedap was now finally like, okay, taking over the ownership of the integration, which for me is the most important. So when I think, I can't remember who reached out to me, maybe it was Tom or someone else at Nedap saying, okay, now we're ready. Then let's start talking at least about what we can do. But times flies, within when you're having fun, especially when. So I think from 21 it went to 22, and then to 23, and then now it's 25.
But okay, so there were once again a lot of triggers that made you move into it. It was also that finally we were ready to go into that step with you guys. It's an interesting remark though about a tunnel that it's not one size fits all, that the solution needs to fit the use case, needs to fit the problem that you're solving. Makes me really jump in. We're talking a lot about in terms what made you start, but what is it that you actually do right now? What do you actually have going right now in your warehouse on a supply chain level?
I think we started with, I normally say with the low-hanging fruits, because from the learning from the past was the full scale was going to be too expensive. You cannot do the whole supply chain at once, or at least not as a private owned company as Samsøe. So we decided where do we get the most impact and easy setup. So we investigated that together with you guys, and we decided let's start on the return part, because this is where you really can utilize the RFID really easy, scan a lot of barcodes fast, instead of actually opening a box, checking it. This was like, it was just a plug and play more or less. Say, okay, this makes sense. You can do it. If it doesn't work, you can do it the good old way, buy a barcode scanner and then check each individual barcode. So for us, that was like a really good idea to start a POC together with Nedap and the new integration, I would say, because that was also part of this test, saying that now I don't build the integration myself. I get someone, let's say, experts in it to use their technology, and then we went with that one.
Yeah, and I can add to that, like in terms of the project, Pretty simple. We had a very nice day kickoff in our warehouse where it was our business. It was Nedap team, and then we had our VMS partner there, and we essentially said like, this is our roadmap. This is where we want to start. The picture you're seeing here is our B2C return area. Essentially, like, as you can see, simple desk, RFID printer for reprinting label tags in case like a tag is damaged, or let's say we need to relabel it with different pricing. Simple iPad on a stand. Harmony as a web-based app, so basically you don't need to provision anything crazy. It's just basically a web link with a login. And then underneath the table, what you don't see, there is a full-size RFID plate that is able to scan items. And this is essentially the same setup, but this is for the B2C. So this is basically tailored for all the non-open boxes. A part of our business, we call it the 3-pillar. We have a very strong omni-channel. We have a very strong retail channel, and we have wholesale. To our wholesale customers, obviously, we're shipping directly boxes full of content. So obviously, sometimes those boxes come back. So instead of wasting time on opening these boxes and manually counting if like our business partners have taken anything out, we are just basically able to throw the box, get the contents of it, verify that that return order is essentially like complete. So pretty simple in terms of integration. I think we spent about 2 days connecting the physical hardware, the infrastructure, and then also setting up the backbone behind Harmony. During the process, we spent quite a lot of time with your development team. Carlos, I'm not sure if you're watching, but it was really nice to be able to work directly with the backend and be able to fix like all the little nicks and crannies like right there. So it was the interface that we wanted, and it's something that when we do these things, obviously we don't want to do them the Samsøe way. We want to be able to have like a template for the next retailer out there. So
okay, that sounds enthusiastic, sounds good, sounds like an improvement, but I can imagine there's also a financial component to it. Tommy, like, have you actually seen a return on investment? Have you seen that this is actually worth it? Because I can imagine that you have a very enthusiastic tech guy next to you that's telling, yeah, we really need this, we really need this.
Yeah, he starts sounding like me actually 10 years ago. So I get more responsible with the years apparently. So so now I'm finally the CFO here. So yes, I think it was very important that when we started the project, we actually defined some KPIs that we like. What is our success stories? Where do we want to go? What do we want to achieve? Which we together with you guys also put on paper. And I think I think maybe I get like a simple thing. The first time I was not a part of the whole POC in the warehouse. I was just in the initial meeting. So it's been run with the current team at the warehouse, which has been really nice. So I have not spent my time on it. So apparently on a meeting, a management meeting, it came up that there was a big, huge success with the return plate scanner at the warehouse. And I was like, how did it come to a meeting where I'm sitting where I didn't even hear about it? So nice that things we are doing they were really from the floor really happy with the solution. It just optimized the whole inbound flow for all the goods coming in. It was so fast checking things, so fast scanning things, which they have used manual time on before. So they saw huge opportunity. I have not calculated the return there because I could just see the happiness on these small things that you don't need to open a box with 100 items and check each individual. You can just put it on a plate, and then you got a list that you could check against another list. And it's like, okay, this saves times for sure. I do think we have some numbers how much time we saved on that part, which is like at least 5 or 6 times faster, if not even more. So that was again, the investment here is pretty low.
Minimalistic,
yeah, I will compare because it is just an iPad and a scanner and then a backbone and integration. So that's a small setup, and you can say it's a light tunnel because it's not a tunnel. It's a manual plate, but the use case we're here will return. So we really see that we can downscale this one to smaller tables and upscale it if you want to tunnels and other things. But the use case is the same wherever we go in the warehouse. Inbound, outbound, check, control. It's about scanning a lot of items really fast.
Exactly. And I think one of the things we also kind of want to touch upon is that obviously, like when we're getting returns back, sometimes, we get like gray item markets. So essentially it's a copy of our clothes, it gets sent back. Maybe the physical item got replaced with that item and the fake item got sent back to us. So that way we're able to, track and trace, the serialization number of the RFID tag. When did it leave the warehouse? When was it scanned in the shop? When was it moved back? If it was moved back into a Samsøe warehouse. Same thing if that particular item was stolen, obviously our ID top will be able to pick up the serialization that it left the store unscanned. So if it pops up in our returns, we're able to, do a full trace around of that item. So
yeah, it's maybe one of the old use cases as well, from back in the days. I don't think it's the same issue today as it was 10 years ago, but gray market, or not gray market, or market where we in Europe, especially Scandinavia, as a fashion brand, sells items, and we sell it out of Europe. We don't want it back because it's, instead of, no one burns clothes. You should not do that. You sell it cheap to some outlet stock somewhere outside Europe. But somehow these items intend to come back via, let's say, some routes that you were not, you did not sign up to, and this is where we use this actually already now. We everything we sell this way, we scan, meaning we utilize the UPC code for everything we sell, knowing exactly was sold. So if something comes back someday, it's really easy for us to go out, actually scan the item, take the code, and then say, okay, that was on that batch, on that order from that day. So we actually know it belongs to this customer, and then it's a pretty good case if you want to go to court, I could say, which is normally difficult because you cannot, back in the days, you could not showcase where he bought the item from because that's not possible. When, let's say, you produce a lot of item in the same color style, you don't know where it's from. It could be anywhere. But in this case, you can actually document where it was from, which is a really simple use case, but it's an important use case.
Exactly.
Only need to use it if in case you have a problem, of course. But I don't think we are the main driver here. There's bigger brands out there where this is for sure an important small step, I would say, in that direction.
Yeah.
So it's a combination for those two. So it's like not only the process efficiency of getting the items in as soon as possible and making it easier for people to work there. There's also a big part of traceability, gray market use cases, and being able to localize an item if it got on an illegitimate market where it should not have been sold.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
I think when it comes to like projects within the supply chain, our next low-hanging fruits, essentially that would be our e-com. That will be our B2C, where we pick all the orders for all our omni-channel customers. Essentially, it will be the same setup in a smaller version antenna. What we're doing is when we're picking the orders, we are picking them in these wagons. I think it consists of 16 orders at a time, so that means that 16 different customers are picked in one batch. Essentially, we're able to scan the items and verify that they were correctly picked. A lot of the times, like obviously we scan the tags. Upon picking, we put them into the wagon, but maybe sometimes something got misplaced, it dropped on the ground and it was placed in the wrong bin on the wagon. So by putting the clothes on the mini versions of the RFID plates, we're able to verify that the contents are leaving the warehouse as requested by our customers. So that's a low-hanging fruit. Same setup, same type of investment. And then obviously the return on investment that is going to be pretty low because we're already scanning one time with scanner and now we're scanning with RFID, but that's just for like being able to, I guess, lower the amount of returns due to full wrong send items on our end.
So
yeah.
Sorry, what were you about to say?
Well, I think in terms of that, like that's kind of like the two projects that we're currently running. I think one of the things that we kind of quickly realized is that unfortunately with our current solution that we have, we're running our VMS and ERP in one platform called Business Central, I guess for our viewers probably known. We quickly realized that running integrations for making Business Central and VMS, we kind of like maxed out the possibilities of the system. We started getting database logs, and we started having concurrency issues. So we quickly realized that we basically need to decouple our ERP and our VMS. So that's kind of like where our POC is at the moment. We would like to say that, it's a full success story. It is on our end, but we just need to focus now on essentially being able to have a dedicated warehouse management system where we are able to integrate these solutions. We're in a few discussions with a few partners, and what Tommy and I are looking into, like native integration to Nedap. That's kind of, like we went down the list with all our partners and said, if you're not standard integrated, we're not really interested into building those integrations ourselves. It needs to be native. So.
And it's one of the things you learn in these POC. That's why a POC always a good idea. So one thing is we did let's say a bigger test, but also seeing that the original ideas I had is still possible. But right now it's not the hardware, it's not the technology, it's actually back to the original problem, the integration. And every time you change something, you change an integration, and I think integration is just key today. And we just saw that if we need to scale this up, we are going to have problems, and it's so we actually just say, okay, we need to simplify, which is back to our whole strategy of using, let's say, technology, best of breed, and all of these things. We need to simplify that process to be able to actually maximize and do this properly. It doesn't change our ideas and what we want to do. It's actually still the same thing I wanted to do 10 years ago. But now it's much easier to do, and now we have a really nice success story with you guys. It works, so it's this integration is there, the project is there. It just needs to be a part of our current, let's say, VMS strategy, for sure.
So that means that you're already dreaming of future and bigger next steps.
For sure.
So you did the same thing in store. Now you're doing the same thing in the supply chain. Like, where do you see the biggest next opportunities or challenges that lie ahead, specifically going into the supply chain in this matter?
So for me, it's for sure, the dream is the same as with the store. You need to get full insights of everything, meaning you need to have inbound, outbound on everything. That's for sure and that's also the part of the strategy here. But to scale that down, so how can you then do something smaller? Yeah, but then you go to the B2C, because that connects better to the current, let's say, use case of what we use RFID, because our retail is already using RFID in the full, let's say, supply chain. So, but one of the things they don't use is the e-com that is packed on the warehouse. And that's why this use case is important for me, because if I need to enable my let's say my dream about RFID, then I need this outbound scan to work for B2C on the part that we actually ship from our warehouse. So if you want to have a full working RFID journey, then you need to scan everywhere, and for the B2C it's on the warehouse, meaning that if you can get that to work, scaling from small pieces 1 and 2, scaling that up to boxes, that should be the same integration, you could say, more or less. It's just a bigger scanner you need, more or less. But because it's the same system, it's just upgrading or making that bigger. So this is for sure the next step for us to enable this part about the B2C scan, which is, as Simeon said, it's the same setup you saw in the picture. It's just downscaled to this, I call it the pack table we use, where everything is then done on a pack table, checked, controlled, verified, read. So you have all the you connect the UPC code to the customer, which is the main driver here, because then that enables the rest of the journey.
Yeah. I think an interesting thing that I can mention is, like, last year we were in an event with Nedap, and for those that don't know, Nedap usually does once a year with all their retail customers. They put us in a meeting a few days, and they showcase their new technology coming, and we also get to see the same faces and new faces in the industry of RFID. The interesting part for me is when we discussed this with Tom, he had like a flow chart, or basically a diagram of a warehouse, and he had these color stickers, and he said, like, please put a sticker on the part of the warehouse flow that you think that is the most important, and it's the most beneficial. And obviously, we all went for the incoming part. But as Tommy said, it's obviously more interested into the outbound part in terms of return of investment. So that sparked like the conversation. In terms of dreams of what we want to achieve, obviously, as Tommy said, maybe I'm sometimes a little bit trigger happy. I would love to have an RFID inbound scanning. For me, RFID inbound scanning, I've worked in the past. The return on investment for that is essentially being able to monitor what you are having from supply chain. So that means that we are able to directly, like negotiate the amount of pieces we've received with our vendors. I can tell you a little, like kind of a cool story. Is like back in 2013 when we started putting RFID tunnels in the supply chain, we started seeing that sometimes we have deviations of 5 to 7% in clothing quantity sent back to us. And we started claiming the supplier, saying, okay, but you've missed quite a few pieces, like now we're going to send you an invoice back, or you need to ship out the correct amount of pieces. So fast forward to like about 5-6 years ago, now all these vendors that, were maybe putting less pieces or more pieces, started having RFID outbound scanning on their end as well. Because, sometimes maybe boxes get misplaced as customs. Sometimes, you split the order in a third-party facility, boxes get stolen, disappear and all that. So it's kind of this middleware between supply chain and also like the end customer being us. But I would like to have that for the sake of having, a gentleman's agreement and saying, okay, within 0.5% of deviation, either, you don't pay or we don't pay. And if it's above that, obviously we exchange financials. For the outbound scanning, I think one of the interesting part is we are wholesalers. So we work with a lot of, big wholesale chains. And sometimes, we get penalized for delivering wrong deliveries and stuff like that. And we can't really like prove was it like actually stolen, or misplaced during transportation. So, when we have these cases, it would be nice to say we had 100 boxes with 5,000 pieces left the warehouse. You should receive 5,000 pieces on your end. So these are actually
a combination of both chargebacks, of vendor compliancy, of brand protection, of traceability, of insights.
Exactly.
The world's still to open.
Yeah, I think these are the bullet points of after discussing with a lot of the other retailers on your side, especially when we go back to gray market. This is where you can actually utilize this completely, because if you have an outbound scan, let's say when you start producing clothes, you make 1,000 RFID stickers that was supposed to go on item, but it ended up only producing 950. There's 50 left, original created right. Let's say RFID UPC codes, you ship the 950, you scan the outbound, you receive the 950, but there's still 50 tags left produced somewhere originally. Those need to be marked, together with your, let's say, sticker creator or whoever you have in your supply chain making your RFID stickers. So this is really simple integrated, making, okay, these 50, if they pop up somewhere in some market,
they really are illegitimate.
Exactly. They are 100% illegally made, but of course, we don't originally probably made on the same factory. Sorry, I'm pointing fingers at the factories, but
it happens.
But it happens, and it still does. And this is a really easy way to check it. It's not an issue, for us. We are not a luxury brand, but in the case when you start having really, really expensive items, this is the easiest way to check these things.
Yeah.
But again, it's utilized as a extra thing when you start having inbound scan, outbound scan everywhere. The more scans, the better, I would say.
Yeah. I think this is really valuable. And Tommy, to quote you, as you said, time flies when you're having fun. We've been talking. We've been losing track of time.
Yeah,
like we need to. If we still want to address some questions of people, we need to move on to the Q&A. But so far, it's been super valuable to hear this, because you mentioned you start somewhere small and then you build it out into something bigger, and you already have this world of opportunities and challenges. It really is a challenge of where to start first.
But
always. But I think it's good to highlight one question from the chat. I'm not sure if we have any questions that have been asked that we can address.
It's really, really small on my screen, so I cannot read it. So I'm too old now to read that small letters.
One has popped up. It's from Christian. Hey, very interesting. Thanks. With warehouse and returns in focus, what kind of ROI or KPIs are you tracking post-implementation, and what results have you seen so far?
That would be you. And I need to flag that I can see which Christian it is. And hello, Christian. Nice to. He was a part of the original project together with me, starting let's say RFID in Samsøe. So nice to see he's joining. I assume you have the KPIs that we were investigating. But I think in general, everything is about optimization. And as I said, optimization is equal money saved. So it's about getting that time spent down. When you have, in our case, a warehouse in Denmark, the hour, what you spend on an hour basis in payment and payroll is a bit higher than it is in South Europe, and especially in Eastern Europe and etc. So if you can optimize these processes, this is where you can save money. And of course, there's all the part of, as we mentioned, of getting the fraud and everything down with Denbox again. Now I missed the part of it because I was wholly excited to see Christian there. But what was the role, the KPIs, and you're tracing post-implement, and yeah. Christian, write me an email. Let's talk about it.
I'm not sure if we have time for one more question.
I guess we could. Let's see.
Arinda. Hi, Arinda. It's very interesting. Thanks for sharing. When you talk about integration, how did you integrate Harmony data, so the RFID data, into which of your systems? And with what granularity of data? Oh, there's a lot of questions in one. And do you store EPC data in your ERP, for instance? I think this is a Simeon question.
It was a good question. I think it was one of the first ones, and where to store the EPC data. And then we really fast looked into ERP, said that's not the right place to store it for sure. It would be a good dream to have it there, but then you should at least not use, let's say, BC, Business Central as ERP. You should use something other, I would say. It's possible for sure, but you need some kind of repository for that.
Yeah, in terms of integrating Harmony data, the RFID data, obviously we're pulling data from ID Cloud. So we have kind of like a golden rule here that we say that, the truth is in the Nedap ID Cloud platform, because that's where we have all the stock and that's what we have the physical count behind. In terms of integration into ERP, we have a very, very light integration in the sense that after we finish the daily scanning, both for B2B and B2C, there's the good old Excel sheet that gets automatically sent, and we import that into the ERP system. So it was never meant to be a full integration, because we did not want to invest time and effort into, development hours into putting it into ERP. Obviously, our focus will be into our new VMS, hopefully within the next 6 to 12 months. So
I think that's important to mention that as a part of this, we realized that we need to, remove some of the part in the ERP to an external system to make this really, really scalable, at least for our case. So that's the limitation of the VMS we have, and it would just be too expensive to reintegrate those parts for sure. So that's a part of it. We do have optimization around it, and we could do it smarter. But again, it's a new integration, and it's easier just to wait. So it's a part of the coming project for VMS for sure.
And hopefully it's standard for the next retailer out there.
And if you didn't have the EPC code is store again an ID Cloud, so ID Cloud functions as our repository. So.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's it, guys. Thank you very much for joining me. It's been really a pleasure of taking a deep dive into what you've been doing with RFID. I really want to thank you, Tommy. I really want to thank you, Simeon, for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thanks for asking these questions. Please make sure to read back the case study to get more in detail. But if you have any follow-up topics, please reach out to any of us, and we'll be happy to help you out. And I wish you, on behalf of everyone, a very pleasant rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening.
Thanks for having us, and thank you for everybody that joined. If you have any questions or anything interesting, find us on LinkedIn, and we're more than willing to jump into a call and have a discussion. We always love working with our retail friends, because sharing is caring. If you ask our business units, obviously that's like secrets behind doors, but like when it comes to technology, everybody has the same access to you guys and to our partners as well. So